Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today. And though you've come through many obstacles.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to The Owl House, Season 2, Episode 5. So, I am reacting to this as early as possible because apparently Twitter has been flooded with spoilers for this episode, more so than usual. Luckily, I have certain words and phrases and stuff blocked on Twitter, and it seems like most of them are hashtagged under spoilers, so I can avoid most of these that way. But just in case, I want to get to it as quickly as possible. My dad went to the store, so I'm taking care of it now. So yeah, with this episode, I know pretty much nothing. I do know that Amity is in it, but that's it. I don't know like any context behind it. I just know that she's in it. Which doesn't say too much, of course, and based on last one, we might delve more into the stuff going on with this other human that was in the Boiling Isles that might be Emperor Bellos, might not. We might delve into just other things going on that we've kind of started to build up. Who knows? With over 20 episodes this season, it's just kind of hard to say how they're going to pace this out quite yet. This might have more to do with Amity's character arc, if she's in this episode. Or it might not. It might just be something completely unrelated to all that. We'll just have to see. But I'm very excited, so let's just get to it. And yeah, by the way, I have clearly chosen my coven. So, when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after fades to black, then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. So, with that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So it seems like Season 2 is doing something that Season 1 did that I wasn't always the biggest fan of. If you remember, Season 1 had a thing a couple of times where it made the A plot so much drastically less interesting than the B plot that it was really annoying at points. Because it's like you wish the B plot would have been more of the focus because it was better. It was more interesting. What was going on felt more important in a couple of them. And it just feels like the A plot just didn't give enough in order to keep our attention as the main focus of the episode. And this is definitely what's going on with this episode too. So I'll talk about the A plot first, get it out of the way, and talk about the B plot, the more interesting one, after. So, after accidentally messing up and, in his mind, hurting Willow, though she seems to be okay with it, she seems to be less worried about it, Gus has kind of spiraled into this really down on himself mood where he's just not doing well. He's really upset at himself and sees himself as a failure and a bad friend. While hanging out with Luz, he ends up seeing these kind of like cool kids from another school handle a runaway beast. They said its name in the episode. I cannot remember what it was called again. Luz had to face one in that I guess you could call it a winter episode. They were on the snowy mountain and everything. Um, I can't think of what it's called. But yeah, so we saw that is kind of going through town, rampaging around. These three students from the neighboring school took it down, and Gus kind of like fanboyed over them quite a bit there. We also see Mathalamule return from season one, and he seems to be joining in with this group of kids trying to kind of get their praise and attention. Um, it's made clear that he used to go to the school that they're from prior to transferring over to Hexside. And they know him, and he's kind of acting as a kind of workhorse for them, just kind of doing whatever he can and not really performing too well himself. But Gus seems to get along with them pretty well and agrees to go with them on this journey to these ruins to find these magic enhancing stones. While Luz heads to the library. So they head to the ruins where Gus finds out that it's actually a graveyard for deceased sorcerers, wizards, and specifically those who were in the Illusion Coven, it seems. They meet an old man there who was using an illusion to be a guardian beast, and begins this entire thing about these students kind of showing their true colors and being assholes and trying to overcome Gus, Mathalamule, and the old illusionist to steal the stones and enhance their powers and all. Though Gus manages to use his illusions to trick them all, having the one kid who is very much interested in bugs, as we've seen throughout the episode, lured away by a really interesting cutesy butterfly. The other kid who, as we found out, had some dad issues and wanted to be noticed and cared for by his father, which is really sad if you think about it. But he's lured away by an illusion, well, of his father, or rather, like, of what I guess Gus would imagine his father would look like, which is really just him with a big, glorious mustache. And it's like, okay, I don't think he would fall for that, but whatever. And then there's the final illusion against the girl. She understands that what's been going on are all illusions, and she's not going to fall for it as easily. So Gus has to create, honestly, like I called it Gravity Falls level, and I stick by that. These Gravity Falls level horrific illusions. Like, there's an ongoing joke with Gravity Falls fans about it, you know, being a kids show yet having such horrifying imagery. This very much went in that kind of direction too. It's like, for a family-friendly series, it's like, oh my gosh, that imagery was actually legitimately frightening. It's just like imagining that kind of stuff, and it's like, at first she's trying to fight back through it. She's trying to, like, ignore it because she knows it's an illusion, but then it just gets to her because it's too much. And it's like, gosh, I could only like imagine how terrible that would be. And then after that, we see Gus and Mathalamule kind of become maybe friends, but I like that Mathalamule says, I don't know. Because it's not simply that easy, and it's not going to be something that can just be changed overnight, you know? So I like that. But let's talk about the B plot, which was infinitely more interesting. So, arriving at the library, Luz sees Amity doing her job, managing the children and everything who have come for readings and stuff. She sees Amity get her hair tie back from one of the kids who had taken it. And we also see that Amity's siblings, Edric and Amira, or whatever their names are there. And it leads to Amity and Luz going to the forbidden wing of the library to try and find this human diary to get more information. They go in there and they find the diary, but a mouse has eaten the pages. So Luz gets angry and yells out, which alerts the librarian to their location, gets Amity fired, and creates a temporary small rift between Luz and Amity because of Amity is just kind of upset that she got fired, and she's kind of like seeing it as Luz's fault, which, I mean, I guess it kind of is, but at the same time, again, what Luz wanted to do there is not necessarily a bad thing. I really wonder why that was in the Forbidden Wing. Was it just because it was written by a human? I'm curious. But Amity, upset, walks away. And Luz, you could tell, is really upset that she upset Amity, too. And it's just like, not a great situation. Later on, Amity's at home with her siblings, and we see that her roots are growing. And as someone who has dyed my hair, I know what that's like. I know what that looks like. And it's like, it's interesting that they're touching on that. So they ask her if she wants to dye it again, and Amity chooses to dye it, yes, but a different color than before. Instead of dyeing it the green that her family all has, except for her father. So I assume that her brother and sister got their natural hair color from their mother while she got hers from her father. I assume that's how it goes. She decides to dye it purple instead, something completely different, to kind of forge her own identity. She even styles it differently, which I like. I love that idea that she's trying to step away from her mother's influence in this regard. And both of her siblings seem completely fine with it, too. Luz comes to the door to apologize, having got back and brought back Amity's library card, staff card that was taken by the librarian when she got fired. And they make up. And then we get a moment that really just, it's going to make a lot of people, and probably already has, it's probably why why Twitter's flooded so much with spoilers. It's probably made a lot of people just absolutely lose their minds and squee in delight. Amity kisses Luz on the cheek. And it's a cheek kiss. It's not like a full like lip to lip kiss or anything, but this is a huge deal for a lot of reasons. One, because this show has been leaning so heavily into the same sex attraction of Amity and Luz, especially so far this season. Like, they've really heavily gotten into the mutual aspect of it. Because in season 1, it was just Amity who had a crush on Luz, one-sided. But here it's mutual now. And so we get to see that. But we also get to see we get to see how this is not just leaning into that, but how it's really developing this ship that is extremely popular. People have really latched onto this, and so with the fandom being so heavily appreciative and loving of this relationship between them, to have this kind of development for it is a good thing, especially so early in the season. They could have easily waited until much later in season 2 to really develop this further. But no, they really get into it. It's only episode 5. And I think that's a really good thing, to not waste any unnecessary excess time on that. And The fact that after it happened, Luz was just in shock and she dropped to her knees and everything. Like, people are gonna lose their minds over that specific thing as well. But yeah, and again, the B plot was so much more interesting. It's like you wanted to see more of this, wanted to see more of Luz and Amity's relationship because it's such a big deal with the fandom. Like, it's the biggest thing, honestly, about this series for a lot of the fans. So having it relegated to a B plot just seems weird to me. And having the A plot focus on some little side quest with Gus, which does develop him well, and it's not a bad A plot. It's just it's so much less interesting. I don't know. It was still a good episode. I still did like the A plot. The B plot was just much better, much more exciting. Really like got the squeeze going. And I can't wait to see where all of this develops. So tell me in the comments below what you thought of this episode of The Owl House, and thank you so much for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.